The blueprint, study my movement, more than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress. I lose cause I'm a step ahead of you.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about NXT from May the 17th, 2022. Not my favorite episode of NXT. It was okay, but just okay. You know, it wasn't awful or anything, but it wasn't very good either. It wasn't great. And it wasn't as chaotic and crazy as other episodes of NXT. So we start the show with Carmelo Hayes. Said that Solo Sakoa ain't got next, he got last. And this led to the tag team match, Carmelo Hayes and Trent Williams versus Solo Sakoa and Cameron Grimes. The match was alright. It was just okay. Solo Sakoa picks up the win, pinning Carmelo Hayes, who is the #1 contender. Why are we doing that? Why is Melo taking the pin when Trick Williams is right there? Trick Williams eats pins, not Melo. That's weird. Why would you do that? During this match, Wade Barrett was talking about Trick Williams, basically saying that Trick Williams, he had the charisma and the size and everything down, but 6 months of shadowing Carmelo Hayes, and he's finally starting to get it in the ring. And I'm glad that they were talking about this in a way that he's progressing. The oddball thing about that is it makes it seem like he was the shits before, and now he's, slightly more than the shits. But, Trick Williams is a great character, great personality, great persona. He should get more credit than he does get for especially being as inexperienced as he was when he started this whole thing. He was very, very inexperienced when he started this. All right, so we got Pretty Deadly. They were all over this show. Pretty Deadly are super annoying. They claim to be petrified of the Creed brothers, but it was just a joke. They had beat the Creed brothers already and were pretty confident they could beat them again. Side plate check. Then said that the locker room are afraid of the Creeds, but they've already beaten them twice, and they dare 2 tasty snacks and 1 meal deal. I just instantly wanted to strangle both of them through the screen. People have taken to calling them all sorts of things. The new Billy and Chuck, the new Fandango, which I think is probably the closest comparison that you can make is Fandango. But these guys are a new type of, I absolutely hate them. I hate them in a way that I don't scream. I don't hate them like I hate the Dark Order. I don't, turn my head and walk out of the room when they come on. I just kind of was like, I wish somebody would, ram their heads together. The right kind of heat. Like, I want to see them get beaten up because they're fucking annoying. And look at how they dress. Let's look at how they were dressed for this show. They were absolutely just awful. Anyway, they were talking about the Creed brothers. This led to Diamond Mine later in the episode. It was the Creed brothers versus the Viking Raiders. And the Viking Raiders actually win because Roderick Strong tried to interfere in the match to help the Creed brothers. The Creed brothers, of course, stopped it. Said they didn't need any help, but while he was distracted, he got taken out and pinned by the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders are not looking good. For starters, this was also a bad booking because the Creed brothers were also the tag team #1 contenders for the tag team titles. So now they have lost too. So the #1 contender for the North American title has lost, and the #1 contender for the tag team titles has lost. So unless both of those are about to become triple threat matches, and we've already had the triple threat match for the North American title. The fans are incredibly fickle in that regard. Like the amount of time it took for them to flip on Cameron Grimes is absolutely embarrassing. But we're talking about this right now. The Viking Raiders are there. I could easily see them making that a triple threat match for the tag team championships. I don't see why we would do that, but I see that that's probably what this is going to lead to, Anyway, Ivar from the Viking Raiders, the guy is balding very badly. He's balding very badly. And the two of them look like 2 guys from the 80s NWA. Like you would see them in the Crockett territory or something like that. So it's very strange that these guys are still around. Anyway, this leads to Diamond Mine continuing to argue later in the show as Roderick Strong tries to explain that he was trying to help the boys. He was trying to do them a solid, and the boys didn't want no help. They said they could do it themselves. Roderick Strong then says, without my help, you guys will never be the tag team champions. And so the Creed brothers was like, oh yeah? And they walked off. Roderick Strong then sent Damon Kemp to do something. I guess go and get the Creed brothers. He was supposed to go collect them and bring them back. As they leave Roderick Strong by himself, Pretty Deadly appear on screen. They just kind of step onto the screen. That's the weird thing about WWE, is that people are just in weird places. Like this is Diamond Mine's locker room, and the Creed brothers are going out. Shouldn't we see Pretty Deadly coming in? Like, like it's one locker room. It feels like a hallway or something like that. And then you see the Pretty Deadly in the background creeping up. And then as the Creed brothers walk off, they come up. That would make sense. But this whole, exit stage left, enter stage right sort of situation we got with the camera here, where, the camera is basically a door. You go off camera, you're left the room apparently. Like they haven't been gone that long. Like the Creeds and the Pretty Deadly were essentially in the same room, right? So the Pretty Deadly taunted Roderick Strong for not being a former tag team champion, but not being good enough anymore. And you're a singles guy now. You're a singles guy now. And Roderick Strong says that him and Damon Kemp will face Pretty Deadly next week, and Pretty Deadly accepted the challenge. That ought to be interesting. We get to see a little bit of Damon Kemp. That ought to be fine. I guess if there was any notes to have, we see that WWE has rejected Roderick Strong's desire to be released, at least for right now, until the next round of cuts when they just going to decide to cut him, which, will be any day now, I'm guessing. I like the Pretty Deadly in terms of them being heat magnets. They are just absolutely good at that. They're super obnoxious. Jesus. Diamond Mine is in complete and total flux. Half the group is literally baby faces. The other half are heels. And then there is Ivy Nile, who is just on an island by herself, where I'm not sure whether she's a baby face or a heel. And she sometimes doesn't even appear with them anymore. So it's very, very odd decision making here, because it's like, is Damon Kemp a heel or a babyface? I'm guessing since he's the newest guy, he's going to be a heel with Roderick Strong. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Diamond Mind, and I think all the cuts and everything just kind of threw this whole thing for a loop. And the Creed brothers are going to be lucky to get out of this thing over and intact, at least for now. I like the Creed brothers. I like Ivy Nile, and Roderick Strong is cool and all, but he's got that anti-charisma. He's a worker guy. And that's his thing. He likes to go to work. So they're trying to use his personality, and he doesn't have that much of one. But it's been fine. It's been fine. I understand the story that they're trying to tell, and it's really getting the Creed brothers over. I just wish they hadn't lost. It seems silly to me that they would lose. But it also seems silly to me that the Viking Raiders would lose, because what were they brought down to NXT for? They was brought down to NXT to be sort of the sparring partners for the Creed brothers. So they couldn't lose to them again. So what do you do except for a disqualification or something that throws the match out? Which, of course, still doesn't make the Creed brothers look any good. As the number one contenders, they should have won. But they had already won. But them losing should have been completely out of the question. It is what it is, though. They're telling a story. We're going on a ride. These are commas and, stuff like that. Whatever. The breakout tournament stuff. Very interesting stuff here. Lash Legends defeats Tayden Paxley. I think the match was too long. Lash Legends did something that was very interesting in this match, and that is she bent the knee over the bottom rope, where, like you pull the knee backwards. Like you're straightening the ligament. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that before. She did a standing stretch muffler, which I thought was pretty cool. The stretch muffler is always an interesting move to see people break out. For some reason, Tayden Paxley thought she could do an electric chair to Lash Legend, who was like twice her size. And she tried it like 2 or 3 times. It was ridiculous. Anyway, Lash Legend wins with a pump kick, which was kind of weak. It was kind of a shit pump kick. The camera cut right before the impact, so it didn't look as bad as it probably would have been if they'd have kept there. It would have looked far weaker. But that's WWE cinematography for you. I've learned a lot about that kind of stuff too. And I learned, to be quite honest, I think I should say that here instead of making a separate video about it, that it's actually a regular Hollywood thing. And I did not notice that until I was watching a video on, I think I told y'all guys about this when I did Raw. I was watching a video on Jackie Chan and about how he films his kung fu fight scenes. And they told the story that in, the old Chinese, the Hong Kong way of shooting fight scenes, you don't cut away from the impact. It makes everybody look like they know what they're doing as they shoot one continuous shot, even though the fighting, thing is, choreographed. The editing is done to make the impacts look greater. But when you compare it to, let's say, fighting in like a Marvel movie, because the actors really can't fight, what they do is they do a lot of camera cuts and camera shakes in order to create action and chaos. And then you think about that's what WWE does. And I don't think anybody has ever mentioned that before. Like, people talk about how annoying it is. But nobody ever says, of course, we thought, and I believe, and it's true, that they cut the camera before the contact in order to avoid showing the contact or avoid showing how weak the punch or the kick is. Instead, what they're doing is they're saying, these guys can't fight. We're going to cut it up to make it look like they know what they're doing. And in reality, it makes shit look worse. Most times, people look more competent if you film it in one shot, which is very interesting. And I wish I could remember the name of that video. That I would definitely suggest you guys sit down and watch it. I think it's from a YouTube channel called Every Frame's a Story or something like that. But he did a video on Jackie Chan. It's a fantastic video. I learned a lot. You should probably watch that video. It's fantastic. But it tells me a lot about WWE's way of using the camera cuts to sort of hide the fight scene. And I do not like it. I don't like it. But we got more breakout tournament stuff later in the show. There was another breakout tournament match, Roxanne Perez versus Kiana James. It was okay. It was very short for a women's match on NXT. Usually they tend to give them a little bit more time. But Roxanne Perez wins with a code red out of the corner. Short, not terrible. They didn't give Kiana James a lot of opportunity to screw this up. I saw a lot of people complaining about the Kiana James gimmick as if we know what that is really. I think her gimmick was that she was an accountant or something. Like, she was talking about crunching numbers. And those puritanical morons over on cage side seats talking about this is very Cinemax. Like, Cinemax? Kiana James? Like, this is like her second match. What is, I don't know, man. It seems like I don't know what's going on with you puritanical dudes. And I don't get it. I really don't get you guys. Like, maybe we just have different concept of what sexy stuff is. I think her pulling down her glasses is like sexy, and it's like super sexy. Like, this is porno. Like, she ripped her shirt off or something like that. Like, I don't get this. And it's a every week thing. It's every week they find something that is so small and minute to say, like, this is just basically pornography. And it's a routine thing. And they're doing it on purpose. Like, this is one of those things that they complain about routinely, this and Joe Gacy. We'll talk about Joe Gacy momentarily, because I don't think he was particularly good this week, and I don't think the booking did him any favors this week. But it seems like they're going to shit on the women's division and Joe Gacy every single week, no matter what is done. No matter what is done, they're going to hate that stuff regardless. And it seems like they have, of course, their favorites, and they play favorites. But the disproportionate amount of attention that small things like her pulling her glasses down for a picture is very bizarre. It's almost obsessive. It's very weird. So the women's tournament is doing very well, and it wasn't until they mentioned it in a promo that we talk about shortly that I didn't know that Tiffany Stratton wasn't in the tournament. Also didn't notice that Saray wasn't in the tournament. Neither was Cora Jade. They tried to, bring in fairly new names. Like Cora Jade, of course, she doesn't need it because she was being pushed to. She had already been in the women's War Games match and that kind of stuff. But Tiffany Stratton would have fit perfectly in this tournament, and so would Saray. I guess I just wanted to get new women in there. Give like Kiana James and Tayden Paxley and all of them, Fallon Henley, get all of them an opportunity, which is fine. But I think we probably would have been better off with the women that we spent a little time with. I think that we because the women's division is not that deep, we probably should have gone with women who are a little bit more over. That's just me. But the breakout tournament is doing fine. Speaking of women's division, Thea Hale is signed to WWE. She's only 18 years old. She's not even graduated from high school. She will be training at the PC while attending college. And I heard that she's already wrestled on Level Up. And this thing that she did, this promo, this vignette that they did for her, it came across like a commercial for WWE. I'm so very proud WWE is giving me this opportunity to train while I go to school. I'm going to do my very best to become the best WWE superstar of all time. And I'm just kind of like, huh? Why would you come out here and tell people that you're signing 18-year-olds? Like this girl's a literal baby. What are you doing? Like, Jesus, what are you doing? I guess they're trying to get them so young. They're getting them a little too young. At least let them get their ears dirty a little bit. Come on. Cut them some slack. Shit. You don't want her to be, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because that would just give people bad ideas. All right. So Tony D'Angelo cuts a promo, said that Santos Escobar screwed up. Tony's boys and Tony D, they make jokes about beating up guys in the schoolyard. And then Tony D'Angelo says, nah, I know that was fun. That was the good old days, but I got to do this one alone. I got to take out Santos Escobar by myself, Later, Santos Escobar cut a promo saying that Tony D'Angelo wanted to be like him and that he's all in Tony D'Angelo's head and he got him all riled up. But tonight's going to be one-on-one. Cruz del Toro wants revenge, for getting kidnapped and beat up. And Santos Escobar was like, nah, I'll handle this. I got this. So they have the main event, Santos Escobar versus Tony D'Angelo. This match was pretty good. Obviously, Santos Escobar is a hell of a hand. I wish he wasn't as old as he was, because if he wasn't like 36 or 37 or something like that, he'd be prime for the main roster. He still is, to be quite honest. We should give him the Alberto Del Rio push. If anybody deserves the Alberto Del Rio push, it's Santos Escobar. Okay? He is everything they wanted Alberto Del Rio to be. He is everything they wanted Andrade to be. He's it. He's legit. He speaks fluent Spanish. He speaks fluent English. He's a great worker. He has great charisma. Has a great look. He's got a great gimmick. He's got the lineage to go back. WWE loves second generation, third generation stars. He's got the lineage with the Fantasma thing in Mexico. He's a well-known name. You can run him with Ray. You can run him with anybody. There's only two problems. One, he's small. Two, he's over the age of 35. That's fucked up. And I know part of that is because he got locked into that bullshit contract with Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground fucked a lot of people. It really did. Fucked a lot of people. But Santos Escobar is tremendous. He's quite possibly my favorite wrestler in NXT, without a shadow of a doubt. Tony D'Angelo did very good in this match too, but you could tell he was working very light, especially when it came to his body punches. He pulled them a little too much. They didn't look like they could, bust a grape. But other than that, this match was okay. Tony D'Angelo tried to go for his old faithful, which is crowbar, which is placed behind the steps. It's always there. So, it was pretty smart that when he went to look for it, it wasn't there anymore. And we found out Legado del Fantasma had actually taken it. So, Stacks and Tony Two Dimes, or whatever the hell his name is, they attacked Legado del Fantasma for taking the crowbar, and they fought and they distracted the referee. Santos Escobar out heels the heel Tony D'Angelo by going into his tights with brass knuckles and punching him in the joint. And that was it. He pinned him. Santos Escobar wins the match. We're not turning anybody babyface. Everybody's staying heel. So it's a heel program, but the fans really like Santos Escobar, so they're rolling with it. I like this, man. I hate that Santos Escobar is still in NXT, toiling away, doing little to nothing, and never winning any titles. That sucks. It sucks. But I like him on the inside of the company rather than being on the outside. So I'll take it. I'll take it for right now. Hopefully we do some type of 6-man schmaz at In Your House where it's going to be like some kind of crazy battle. What was it? Maybe street fight, parking lot brawl. That could be so much fun. A parking lot brawl, 6-man tag type of situation, a 6-man parking lot brawl. That could be badass. The parking lot is already bad enough as it is, baby. All right. So Duke Hudson is there. He says that, he had to dig himself out of a hole. And he says he realized that nobody can measure up to him because he's 6'5". And as he's talking, Braun Breaker, just walks through his shot. And he's like, whoa, what is this? And Braun Breaker goes to the ring because he's got to talk to Joe Gacy. So Joe Gacy and Braun Breaker are going to cut a promo. Braun said that Joe Gacy can kiss his ass and that he should have finished the job out there in that field. Because he kidnapped him, beat him up, and took him out to a field and dumped him. Like, that was very weird of Joe Gacy to do. He should have at least buried him up to his shoulders in sand or something. So Joe Gacy pops up on the balcony and says that Braun Breaker's been consumed with rage, and rage makes men predictable. And that he rejected an opportunity of a lifetime, but Gacy doesn't hold grudges. But it's now time to up the stakes. Then he challenged him to a match in which if Braun wins, he will lose if Braun loses by disqualification, he'll lose the NXT title. And Braun, of course, because this is a stupid ass, dumb fucking ass stipulation, of course he accepted it. It's a stupid fucking stipulation. I'd accept it. I accept it too. I'm not going to get disqualified. I'm going to kick his ass. Legally. And that's it. Gacy is just like, oh, okay. Bet, and the plan is to force Braun Breaker to get disqualified. It's ridiculous. The booking is not helping Joe Gacy at all. We already know that people are looking for any reason to not like the guy. And then you're booking him very weak and very weirdly because now you've turned him into an 80s cartoon villain. We're going to get into that in a moment. So Braun Breaker is out there in the vaunted NXT parking lot. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Braun is in the parking lot. He's feuding with a cult leader. He's already been kidnapped once. What could possibly happen in the NXT parking lot? Is like the floor going to collapse? Is he going to get run over with a car? Is somebody going to try to, sacrifice him on a symbol? Is he going to, birds going to shit on his face? Like, what's going to happen here? And then, nothing happens. Just Duke Hudson walks up to him and says to him that if he gets and interrupts his promos or talking segments again, he won't make it to In Your House. And then Braun Breaker was like, oh yeah, you think so, bud? How about we fight in the ring right now? And Duke Hudson said, sounds good, but we'll do it next week. So that's it. Duke Hudson versus not Joe Gacy, but Braun Breaker next week. Perfectly fine match. I don't mind that. It is what it is. Then we get this Joe Gacy post-show thing. To which Joe Gacy says that, again, Braun Breaker has uncontrollable rage. And this uncontrollable rage of Braun Breaker will lead him to control the NXT championship. And then the world. It's like this real Skeletor type shit where he's laughing and the camera pans backwards. And it's just like his face over like the city or something like that. I'm just like, I just looked at this shit and I was like, oh my God. They just shot one of the worst things in NXT history. It's fucking hilarious. It was so bad. It did not do Joe Gacy any favors. It did not do him any favors. It was not good. I don't know what's up with, like, I get it. I get why other people don't like it. He's making fun of their politics. I get why they don't like it. But they're trying to get me to not like it. And all the 80s cartoon villain camp, I'm not a fan of that. We need to reground the character again. He's talking about taking over the world because he's going to be the NXT champion. This shit remind me of like WMAC Masters or something like that. I was just kind of like, it's too over the top. Pull it back some. Let's pull it back some. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit. For starters, we need to get a real fucking stipulation on this match. It should be no holds barred. Falls count anywhere, something of that description. They're not doing Joe Gacy any favors with these silly gimmicks and with the silly promo style. The content, it's delivered in a very creepy, over the top way. It's I like Gacy, but they're not doing him any favors here. They're not helping him at all. We gotta help my man out a little bit, man. Do him a favor, help him out, help a man up. All right, so Indy Hartwell, she's going to cut a promo. She says she's tired of feeling down for herself for the first time. There's no partners. There's no tag team partner. There's no life partner. She's all alone, and it's sink or swim. And she said she's going to call her shot. So she said, Mandy Rose want to kick her while she's down. Why not kick me while I'm standing up? And you say you're the measuring stick? Well, I'm going to send that stick right up your ass. And I was like, oh, buddy. Whoa, hold it now. You're getting into my fetish. Anyway, since everything is sexy anyway. Toxic Attraction was back there watching Katana Chance and Kayden Carter cut a promo on them about how they're disappearing with the tag team titles and that they're tired of wrestling makeshift tag teams and that they're the only real tag team in NXT and that Toxic Attraction are beating up on makeshift tag teams. And they're like, what? So Mandy Rose storms in and she's very selfish. So she's like, did you see what Indy Hartwell said about me? And because Toxic Attraction are also selfish, they're like, did you see what Katana Chance and Kayden Carter said about us? So they take a moment to mock everybody involved and say that there's not enough respect on their name. And they're going to start building the respect on their name. And they're going to start with Indy Hartwell. So they're going to put the beats on Indy Hartwell. Of course, everybody knew what this was. As Katana Chance and Kayden Carter were cutting this promo on the phone about how they're the only real tag team and they're tired of wrestling makeshift tag teams, a lot of people were saying this is obviously a shot at Sasha Banks and Naomi. That they're bitching to somebody, I don't know, the internet. I don't know who they were bitching to. They were watching it on their phone, which I think is a good way to introduce storylines, is, to have people read stuff that people are tweeting about them. Because it's a lot better than the old bullshit we were doing before where, I heard what you said, even though, I'm not supposed to be watching TV or I'm supposed to be like preparing for my match. But I heard what you said. People being obsessed with their phones. If we're going to modernize wrestling a little bit, that would be a good way to do it. Not completely, of course, but certain characters, like Toxic Attraction, are good characters for this, where they will really care about what people tweet about them, what people say about them on YouTube, stuff like that. Especially if they have the ability to confront those people, they should care. They're very vain in that way. That they should be able to get trolled on Twitter and stuff like that and be pissed off about it. So I think it was a good way of utilizing that gimmick. Now, was this a shot at Sasha Banks and Naomi? I don't know. Probably. I hope it was. I really do. I really hope it was because, it would piss people off so much. And I like seeing certain people upset. So they're obviously building towards the six woman tag of Katana Chance, Kayden Carter, and Indy Hartwell versus Toxic Attraction. That's fine. I think it is over time for Katana and Carter to finally be the tag team champions, or at least wrestle for the titles. I don't think they've even had a title shot yet. I kind of think they're kind of overdue for that. So, why not? It's not really going to hurt Toxic Attraction to lose or to beat them. It's not going to bother anybody at all. So Wesley is back. He's upset that Zion Quinn is not medically cleared. And then it says that whenever he's medically cleared, whether it's next week, 2 weeks, next month, 4 years, he'll know where to find him. This led Nathan Fraser to say, "Well, I'll take your spot." And then Wesley says, "Look, I'm frustrated. You don't want any of this. You don't want no part of this, pal." And Nathan Fraser was kind of like, "Well, I kind of do. I'll look forward to the challenge, mate," and tottered off. And I was just kind of like, wow, that's a good way to shit on somebody who's supposed to be angry. Like, this guy's supposed to be pissed off. And this dude's like, "Whatever you say, mate." And then just like, "Sure, we'll fight." And then just wandered off. I was kind of like, wow, okay. Whatever you say, boss. So Wesley versus Nathan Fraser had incredible potential. Incredible potential. Nathan Fraser's new entrance is tremendous. Okay, it has like this little rocket or like this comet that speeds across the NXT center, and it kind of shoots down and it explodes. His music plays, he rises up from the thing, and it's based on like the Flash. So, which is perfect because the guy is so fucking fast in the ring that the Flash is a great theme for this character and for this persona. I wouldn't, overdo it too much with the thunderbolts and everything, because that would be a little too on the nose. But I like it. I like, it's a little bit like Neville. It's a little bit like Neville, where you had Neville with the explosions and stuff like that. It's a little bit like that. I like it though. So they had a hell of a match going. Two baby faces going in there, weren't trying to kill each other, but they were competing at a high level and competing ferociously. When Von Wagner, the guy who has the swagger of a dog dad, comes out there and beat them both up. Now, normally, under normal circumstances, somebody gets bench pressed, thrown over the top rope, and lands on the announce table. It was a beautiful spot. But because it was Von Wagner, I still almost yawned. He couldn't even do that with charisma or swagger or intensity. I was just like, yo, what the fuck? Can this guy do anything right? It worked. It all worked out, I guess, It all worked out. So Von Wagner beat up Nathan Fraser and Wesley. This led to a backstage segment. My cable started screwing up, so I didn't really catch the whole thing. But from what it seems like, Wesley is frustrated that all these big guys are floating around. And so he starts talking to Sangha. And Sangha asks him, "So what do you want to know? What do you want to do?" And Wes says that he wants to prove that you don't need to be a giant to succeed in NXT. And that seems to be his new mission statement, which is fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And then as I sit here talking about Wesley, I realize I do have the WWENXT apology. We'll do that at the end of NXT instead of doing it at the beginning. So Nathan Fraser and Wesley was good. It was perfectly fine. I didn't have a problem with it. The only issue that I had is Von Wagner, who is as interesting as watching paint dry. He's just literally anti-charisma. He's just, ugh. Anyway, Grayson Waller is backstage practicing his boxing, and Tiffany Stratton is there. They talk about how much of a shame it is that Tiffany Stratton is not in that breakout tournament, which, I didn't notice until they said it. Tiffany Stratton says, "I know, right?" And then kind of said that she wants this Chase University thing kind of dealt with. And Grayson Waller says, "Oh, well, I've got a match on Andre Chase right now, so I'm going to definitely deal with that." And then he goes and he actually does. Grayson Waller defeats Andre Chase. Andre Chase is very over. The crowd loves Chase U. Saray is in the Chase U student section, and she is being very extra and over the top, and I love her. I love her in this foreign exchange student role. She has a lot of character in this role. She's not generic Japanese schoolgirl anymore, because Chase U seems to be doing something that's a little on the edge as far as people being angry and being a little bit over the top in terms of personality. This seems to be a good vehicle for her. You know, it's not a perfect long-term plan, of course, but it's good enough for right now, you know, to get her on TV and doing something that could be remotely interesting. It's a good start, you know. All right, so the last thing I think is Idris Enofe and Malik Blade were making fun of Tony D'Angelo and Santos Escobar by doing parodies and costumes, making fun of both of them. Now, considering both Santos and Tony D are heels, it makes sense. So, at this point, what we get was, I think it was Tony D'Angelo's boys had walked up to them as they were making fun of them and decided to challenge them to a match. Idris Enofe and Malik Blade accepted the match, and they will happen next week. The last segment that we can discuss is Cora Jade hugging Roxanne after Roxanne won her big breakout tournament match. And I'll talk about how they've been friends for a long time. Elektra Lopez was absolutely disgusted, called, I think, Roxanne an overachiever and called Cora an underachiever. And that, she's basically picking a fight with the two of them. And says that she's going to beat up somebody next week. Alba Fire. She's going to beat up Alba Fire next week. So, that ought to be interesting. Okay, okie dokie. All right, so that's NXT. Not my favorite episode. Not the worst. Just chugging along nicely. You know, not terrible. All right, so this is NXT related, even though this guy doesn't work for NXT anymore. Zachary Wentz, he put out a apology on social media, and apparently his name is Zachary Green. So it says, and I quote, a statement by Zachary Green. No words can truly describe how ashamed and apologetic I am for my conduct in the photograph. There is no excuse for such behavior, and I take full responsibility for my actions and ask for forgiveness. The picture was taken in 2015, a time where I was uneducated on the topic, and therefore didn't understand the magnitude of how hurtful it was. In 2020, someone was trying to extort me by threatening to post it on social media. I sent it to my wife to discuss the situation. Apparently, she kept it and then decided, in retaliation for the filing of the divorce, to post it on social media. Regardless of how the photographs came to light, there is still no excuse for my actions. Over the past month, I have taken time to reflect on my conduct, to which I express my utmost remorse and regret. I have spent time off social media to refresh and re-educate myself about the horrors of the Holocaust. I truly do hope that this situation will teach and bring awareness to the horrific tragedy that took place so that something like this will never happen again. I can assure you that this is not who I am or what I represent as a human being, and I feel it is never too late to educate and better yourself. If you are ever in the Orlando, Maitland area, take some time to visit the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center of Florida, where you can learn about the history and depth of what took place. It was an incredibly eye-opening and impactful experience that teaches the importance of this history. MJF, everyone's favorite Jew, actually vouched for Zachary Wentz. Went online, broke character for a moment to say that he lives with Zachary Wentz for a little while, and that the man is not a Holocaust denier or an anti-Semite. And then I guess he deleted the message later, which is, of course, to keep his Twitter in character. So good on MJF, for starters, for breaking character for something important. You break character for important things. And, if this guy is a friend, he's definitely worth breaking character for and looking out for. The one thing I will say is apologizing to the mob. I think the mob was a little bit more forgiving when it comes to Wentz's situation, because so many people kind of like him. So they kind of was like, okay, you know what? We forgive you even before you apologized. In most other instances, you don't really apologize to the mob as much as you explain what happened. But I'm glad he did explain it. And it's unfortunate that it cost him his job. I still think it's absolute bullshit that it cost him his job. And that it's not that big of a deal. Even though, well, you're not Jewish, Mongo. Why do you care? Why can you say that? It's like, look, man, there's people running around here calling themselves communists. Like, communists have starved hundreds of millions of people in Poland, in the Ukraine, in Russia, in China. They have purged and murdered hundreds of millions of people throughout Cuba and South America. Socialism and communism have killed numerous people. And you have literally Sami Zayn running around dressed like a socialist dictator and Fidel Castro on WWE TV. Anybody who does like any type of Che Guevara, anything, like, why is it that the Nazis are the one thing that, when people are talking about the evils of the world, we all can agree that the Nazis are terrible? Why can't we all agree that fucking communists are terrible too? Then maybe we can attack some of these fucking commie wrestlers that are running around here. Dudes with black power fists, the Black Panthers were communists. And all this kind of shit. We should be on full tilt for all of it. No, you shouldn't be running around here with the black power fist. That shit was communist propaganda. Alright? Communism starved and murdered millions of people. Some of them were indeed black, yes. Or BIPOC. And I'm pretty sure some of them were gay, too. That starved to death in Ukraine. So, I'm sorry. I don't believe that the Jews hold any sort of monopoly on pain and suffering to the point that you can't mock being a Nazi, but you can mock be a communist. No, you cannot. And there's too many wrestlers running around here being communists and socialists, whether politically or in character. And this shit is supposed to be like a babyface thing. No, fuck no. That's heel to the core. Hell no. Quoting Marx and shit. Promoting communist propaganda on their Twitter accounts. Trying to help these communist bailout funds. I'm sorry. No. Yes, what Zachary once did was wrong. Should it have cost him his job? No. You fine the fucking guy for being an idiot. You send him to some type of class where he learns to stop doing this dumb shit. Suspend him for a while, then you bring him back. That's like, I don't believe you should fire a communist. I think you should educate the fucking communist. Like, look, you're an idiot. Look at all of these people that communists have murdered and killed, and they started out with the whole us versus them horse shit the same way everybody does. And it ends with, the government deciding, oh yeah, we're going to decide who eats and who doesn't eat. Who gets food, where food goes, where food grows, who gets to grow it, how much of it do they get to grow. Like, if you're worried about inflation in the United States and, what's going on with the baby formula and all that shit, this is what happens when you have top-down government. And that's what we had, and we didn't, it didn't take long, did it? We had top-down government for approximately 1 or 2 years during the pandemic, where we decided who got to stay open and who had to shut down. In doing that, we skyrocketed the cost of chicken. We got rid of baby formula. The cost of gas went up. That's what happens when you start controlling the economy. When you start saying who gets to continue working and who doesn't. That's what communism fucking is. It doesn't matter who makes the decisions. Well, it's going to be the workers. They don't know shit. It doesn't matter if it's the workers or anybody else in government. Unless you have direct, and I mean you are the person who literally owns the plant. Unless you have any type of direct influence, direct education, direct knowledge of this industry, you cannot just pop up and shut shit down. You can't. It causes problems. And if you thought for a moment, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. But 2 years, we had top-down government. The government decided who gets to go to work and who didn't. Who had to shut down and who didn't. And look what happened. You're running chicken wings. The cost of chicken wings went up. The cost of everything went up. I mean, it is what it is. But you can still be like this commie wrestler, though. You can do a communist gimmick. No, fuck no. Hell no. Sorry. Too many people starved for that. But Zachary Wentz seemingly good dude. A lot of people went to bat for him. So I already wasn't all that upset. I'm glad he's doing okay. Nobody seems to be protesting his upcoming indie date. Unlike Velveteen Dream, who says, "Oh, I'm going to do his indie date," and everybody was like, "No, you not." Zachary Wentz seems to still be able to make money, so that's good for him. So that's NXT and a little political rant. Sorry. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.